Congratulations, it's 12:17. At the View, a beautiful location, second time this year, and look forward to having a great conversation today with Dr. Rothenberg. Thank you for being here. Also wanted to make you aware, breaking news, that we have Rob Portman next Thursday. So make sure you sign up this Friday by 5 p.m. and not only bring yourself, but bring prospective members. It's a great opportunity to hear from retired Senator Portman. It will be a fireside chat with Al Conscious. I want to thank Al Conscious and Sarah Patterson. Can we have a round of applause for that great work? I'm going to shoot over to Jana Metzelar and Erin Miller for our national anthem. Thank you.
Thank you, President Eric. Will you all please join me in prayer? Lord, in the midst of winter, when the days are cold and wind can pierce, remind us of the warmth of your love. In the midst of winter, when the days are short, dawn comes late and dusk arrives early, remind us that the darkness of your light still shines. And remind us that spring is not far away. Amen. Amen. Please join me in the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do as Rotarians. Is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you. Now, as the screen is coming down, for some of you, you can all sit down. Back in the fall of 2023, our Grandfather Service Group was looking for a project that we could do every month. Same day of the week, same time of the month, etc. And something that people could bring their spouses, their children, their grandchildren to. So we chose to volunteer at the Free Store Food Bank, especially in their beautiful new facility that's on the west side of Cincinnati. So for every month, January through December of 2024, we had people from our club and people that they brought volunteering. So today I just want to take a few minutes to recognize those people. And we have a wonderful video, but I don't know where it's going to show up. Maybe not. Anyway, just to tell you, for those people that have volunteered at Free Store Food Bank, if you would stand up so we can recognize you, it would be great. Thank you. And many of our volunteers volunteered more than once. There's one of us that was there only 11 months, a few that were there for 10 months, and it just continues. And a total, we had 77 people volunteering. We had, these are all my video, but we had, I think it was 307 hours or something right around 300 hours of total volunteer time. And so it was a big deal. And the things that we do, we either worked in the distribution center and we packed boxes, either senior boxes, which went out to help supplement the things that they could get other places, and mainly single goods. We also packed power packs for children. and so that they had food to eat over the weekend, and that was in the distribution center. And then some of the times we worked in the retailer market. And this is a brand new market that is just beautiful. If you haven't been there, it just is gorgeous. It feels like an upscale market. It's very clean, and the main thing is that people can get a lot of fresh produce that they cannot get in other places. So the people come in and we help stock, we help them check out, take their food out too, etc. So just to give you an idea, in January we packed 680 senior boxes. In February we did 1,440 power packs for the children. In April we did 1,920 power packs. And May, we had a birthday. Someone would donate all this food to give birthdays to children that were not able to have their own birthday party. So we packed birthdays. We don't have a total number on that, but we get fun. In June, we did 990 rural summer meals. And these are meals that go out to people that live in rural areas and may not have that much access to fresh food. In July, we did 680 senior boxes and 290 of the rural food boxes. In August, we did 200 senior boxes for the regular senior boxes, and 680 for the rural area. In September, we did 600 again. October and December, we were in the market. In November, we did 840 boxes. So you can see it was fun. There's several of us that are actually coming back because we really liked it. And in particular, I want to welcome Christy Collier, who is up at the front table with me. Christy is a volunteer coordinator at the Free Store Food Bank, and she had to put up with me, asking like, do we have enough volunteers yet? Or she would send me emails and say, we don't have enough volunteers yet. So then I was asking either President Doug or President Eric to please say, would you please come volunteer? And you all responded. So thank you so very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks to Nancy, thanks to the Free Store Food Bank for all you do. An example of our hands-on service that we do in the local community. Doing double duty is now Kelly Collison, who's going to announce all of the guests and prospective members. It's important that you understand we every Thursday, if I hadn't said enough, who's coming next Thursday? Okay, sign up by this Friday at 5. We want to fill this room here. And in addition, Kelly is representing, is a meeting sponsor. We want to thank Kelly and Magnify Giving for everything they do for Rotary. And let's hear from Kelly in 2 different spots. Thanks.
Thanks, President. If everybody would keep your applause, we have several guests today, and then we can give them a great, warm Rotarian welcome. Christy Collier from Free Store Food Bank, guest of Nancy Reese. And we have Lucy Crane, who is a guest of Kay Atkins. And we have Rich Sander, who is a guest of Bob McElroy. Rusty Curlington, a guest of Brad McGonigal. Stephanie Milano, a guest of Ashley Stewart. And we have Maya DeRoche, who is a guest of our speaker today. So thank you and welcome everybody today. And it's my pleasure to host today's meeting. Our logo has a heart in it, so I thought it was appropriate that we talk about not only the health of the physical heart, but of our heart, of our mind, and our body, and our soul collectively. And Magnified Giving is honored to be in 155 youth programs. Majority of them are schools. Others are youth programs such as Boys and Girls Clubs, Down Syndrome Association, etc. And we give them money, and they in turn choose which organization will use it best. So what we're doing is empowering the next generation by securing the success of philanthropy in our market. So if you ever want to magnify your giving, you know where to find me. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kelly. I want to bring up Taylor Young. Normally this would be done by Michael Chapman. Michael injured his ankle on the way into an early meeting, so keep him in your thoughts. He's doing well, just going to be recovering at home for a little bit. So I've met Taylor a few times recently, and I also want to share some words comes directly from Michael. And before we get into that, I wanted to thank Taylor for already becoming engaged in Rotary. He's taken on the role of being the co-chair of the YP group for Rotary. So thank you, Taylor. Already stepping in, and currently works for Cincinnati Cyclones. If you are at a Cyclone game, and I would encourage you to go, it's a lot of fun. We went recently, and it's well worthwhile to attend. He's going to be in section 137. You want to say hello to Taylor, or when he's around the stadium, the Heritage Bank. And I would not be remiss about, we want to all welcome Taylor Young to the Rotary Club of Cincinnati. Taylor is originally from Hartford, Connecticut, and he holds a bachelor's degree in sports management from Wittenberg University and a master's in science from West Virginia University. With 12 years of experience in the sports industry, he has worked with organizations like the Orange Bowl, the Charlotte Knights, and the State College Spikes. Taylor now serves as senior ticket manager for the Cincinnati Cyclones, where he oversees ticket programs and mentors the sales department intern class. Known for his dedication to fan engagement and creating unforgettable experiences, Taylor brings his passion and expertise to every role he undertakes. Welcome, Taylor. And I'm sure that after the meeting you can learn more about Cyclones from Taylor. Stop by and say hello. I'm going to call up Brett LeVar for an update on the year-end ask.
Thank you, President Eric, and good afternoon. Really glad I have this opportunity to be here and say a few words about some of the key activities of the foundation, but in particular, one activity, which is we had a year-end ask campaign, and the focus, the 100% focus of that was on a brand new fund that the foundation trustees created in the fall called the Local Projects Fund. There's a lot of interest in that, and I want to just start with a huge thank you to Eric and Mary Petway, who gave a generous gift of $25,000 to kick off that new fund. And in addition to the $25,000 initial gift, they put out a $25,000 matching challenge to the club for any who would like to donate. So that year-end ask now is in and tally, and club members donated $28,680, which was great. And when you add that to the very generous gifts from the Petways, that's $78,680. So a big thanks to the Petways and also to the club members who chose to donate. This Local Projects Fund will help with several things. It'll help us as a Rotary Club / foundation to do projects of our choosing that we do ourselves. It'll also enable us to do what we've done so many times in the past, be able to partner with other nonprofits and projects. And as you know, we have in the foundation a regular allocations budget every year where we choose and vet nonprofits for grants. And it'll also be a supplement to that. So this Local Projects Fund will help us do what we have done for a long time in this club, which is a tradition of local service. So again, many thanks, Eric, to you, and many thanks to those who donated. And I'm going to ask Eric to come up and say a few words if he would like to.
Really a thank you to the members who donated, and just a reminder, this is a fund that's open 24/7, 365 days a year, so if you want to donate going forward, I'm sure Brett is willing to take your checks. But more importantly, this allows the foundation to have more of a portfolio of giving opportunities. This specifically was for the local projects in the Cincinnati region. We are so blessed to have so many opportunities to help others. And from myself and my wife Mary, we wanted to make sure that we started this process and remember that it's still an opportunity to give always, and appreciate the idea coming from the foundation. So thank you to all of you, and go forth and continue to give. We have two committees today. We have the Jefferson Award Committee in the Highland Room and the Hands-On Service Committee in the Hearth Room. We have many birthdays, just going down the list. In January, Esteban Calle on the 15th, Winston Fockers on 16th, and just on 17th, Laura Wolke on the 17th, Jared Reese on the 17th, Bruce Brenstetter on the 18th, as well as Josiel Ehrlich and Bob Walter on the 18th. I know Jerry's here. Is Esteban here as well? Okay. We will have a happy birthday to Mr. Jerry on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday!
Now, I know this is time to wait for Split the Pot. We have $43 for the winner today and $208 for the big pot. The winning number is 314-52612. 314-52612. Three 52612. All right, the pot goes. So today, the family of Rotary, we want to we have one congratulations and one prayer request. One is the congratulations on the congratulations. We want to congratulate the new grandparents, Rotarian Kelly Mann and Rick Peskovitz, on the birth of their new granddaughter, Lily Sophia. Parents Max and Lacey Peskovitz are overjoyed. We just learned this morning that Steve Easley had to go to the hospital. He's hoping for a speedy recovery, but he's asking for your prayers. So please reach out to him, text, also say prayers for him and his speedy recovery. Dates to remember, we have the upcoming next neighborhood coffee on Tuesday, January 21st from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. at the Coffee Exchange at Pleasant Ridge. Feel free to bring a guest or prospective member. On March 8th, actually, pull out your phones, and I want to put this on your calendar. March 8th is Pukavras, the second annual. Time hasn't been finalized, but go ahead and put it on your calendar. As you remember, Mardi Gras, the theme event, will feature a competitive pickleball tournament, optional lessons, open play time, fantastic food and beverages. We are seeking donations for our silent auction. Pick up a donation form or see Susan Wilkinson. She's raising her hand right now, see her after the meeting, if any questions. And upcoming on Saturday, February 1st from 9 a.m. to 11:30, we're looking for volunteers to help build small dining tables, coffee tables, and end tables from melamine and particle board at New Life Furniture. No woodworking experience is needed to participate. Contact Rotarian Brian Bowling or Michelle Starr to volunteer. Nominations are open for the 2025 Jefferson Awards. Please find the nomination form on the front page of our website or in this week's e-raise, or reach out to Bill Shula. Now it's my pleasure to turn over to David Wiltsey for our program introduction.
Thank you, Eric. And good to see you all. I must say that I'm really happy and thrilled to be able to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Florence Rothenberg. She's a well-known and esteemed cardiologist. She works through the University of Cincinnati Medical Center and is assigned primarily to the VA. And she does clinical care for some of their sickest and most demanding patients. She does teaching with respect to medical students, residents, and fellows. And it's both teaching and mentoring and role modeling, and that's very critical in the nurturing of young physicians. There's things that you can't get out of textbooks. 2 years ago, I met her when she came and did a grand rounds at Good Sam. And it was a grand rounds in internal medicine, and it was presented both to the medical staff and the internal medicine residents. And it was a very unique and inspiring experience to listen to her talk. It was challenging and pretty much unlike any other grand rounds that I had ever heard, and I was especially glad that our residents got to hear what she was doing. Interestingly, it was not focused on her work in the hospitals. It was focused on work that she has been doing in the community, specifically in Northside, and I'll let her talk to you about this, but practically single-handedly, she has developed a community health center in Northside, which is quite unique in serving the public in many, many different ways. So I think that is something that I really wanted to be able to share with you, and I'm thrilled that we can do it today. I think the other reason that it resonates with me is that she and I share similar kinds of patients. And these are patients with advanced heart and lung disease on complicated combinations of medicines who cannot be totally fixed but sustained, but they go through years of suffering, ups and downs, slow decline, and many of them ultimately wind up in end-of-life category. And that is a frustrating journey for us as well as a tragic one for the patient. And the biggest tragedy is that so many of the diseases that we deal with, lung and heart, are now lifestyle diseases in this country. It may be the primary factor in the diseases we deal with. And certainly, it involves proximate causes like smoking, and yes, marijuana is not good for you, alcohol, drugs, but obesity has become the big elephant on the stage that is propelling so many other diseases. And I think there are the proximate causes and then the root causes. And I think one of the root causes in our country is ignorance and lack of health literacy, lack of health education, and lack of nutritional literacy. And so I think her talk today will be especially apropos on all of those topics. So Florence, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lindsay. That was a beautiful introduction, and I can't wait to hear you talk. So I'm a cardiologist at the VA, and I gave this talk about 2 or 3 months ago to my colleagues, and the room was just full of people nodding at the shared frustration that we all have, in that we know that so much of what our patients are suffering with can be resolved, mitigated through healthy diet and exercise. But we can't get into our patients' lives to make the changes that can make the life easier for them. And so this was a shared frustration, and that's what really led me to the work that I'm doing. So I'm going to talk to you about the work that I'm doing in Northside health in our urban communities. And this is not going forward. Do I have to point this at something to make it go forward? Well, I'll just keep talking. So I'll tell you about the work that we're doing to rethink. Oh, to rethink how we care for patients. And I'm going to give you insights from the Heart of Northside, which is the name of the community health center that I created. That's So I will give you insights from the Heart of Northside. So that is my family. This picture is about 55 years old. You can see that little person. You can see that. That's me. I was 5. And my family is really pretty typical of America in many ways. Not typical in the fact that I grew up in projects in New York, but we did not have a car until I was 7. And the store that we shopped in was about 1.5 miles, 2 miles away. So my dad would take some of my older siblings and get on the bus and go to the store and get food and bring it home. This was when fast food was becoming a big thing. It was eating, which needed to be fast because of all of our busy lives. Swanson TV dinners were just coming out, so that was very exciting, and everybody wanted to eat Swanson TV dinners. But as you can see, 2 of my sisters already were suffering with obesity, and my brother would eventually, all 3 of them would suffer lifelong with struggling with obesity. My dad in this picture was 4 years away from having a massive heart attack that almost killed him. And my sister and brother would ultimately also have early onset heart disease. So it should be no surprise to you to know that our most current data shows that heart disease is still the #1 killer of American men and women, and it has been for over a century. We know there's a lot of data coming out now showing that suboptimal diet plays a big role in, let me see if I can do this quick. Plays a big role in contributing to heart disease. This work coming out of Brigham and Women's in 2019 showed that either too much or too little of these 10 dietary factors contributed about 18% of the cost of ischemic heart disease, stroke, and diabetes costs in the United States. So that's huge. And this is supported by clinical data. In this slide, this paper was published in 2023 in JAMA, and it's a compilation of 2 studies that looks at over 100,000 men and women in the health professions. And they followed these men and women for 36 years. They started out completely healthy. They divided the group into quintiles and compared they had the participants have a diet diary, and they compared the outcomes of people who had eaten the most produce versus those who had eaten the least produce. And they found that the mortality reduction was 19% in the group that ate the most produce versus as compared to the group that ate the least produce. And what's important is that all these dietary scores were significantly inversely associated with death from cardiovascular disease, cancer, and respiratory disease. So it's not just heart disease that's impacted by eating healthier. Also importantly, very importantly, is these inverse associations were consistent across all different racial and ethnic groups, so Hispanic, Black, and white participants in the study. This all ties back to the food that we eat. This paper came out in 2021, and it's a study published by the Rockefeller Center. And they were interested in the true cost of food. What does it cost to feed America? And they found that just for the typical growing, packaging, shipping, selling of food, it costs about $1 trillion. But they did something really interesting. They looked at the negative impact on the environment and on our health from the food that we eat. And they found that that added an additional $2 trillion. And when they look at 12 different facets, and by far and away, the largest contributor to this cost was the negative impact on health. So including the cost of obesity and the cost of hypertension, diabetes, and heart disease. So that's an additional $1 trillion just from the negative impact on our health. So food is very closely associated with our health. So what is the most closely related risk factor that can be impacted by health? And most of you will probably think cholesterol. But in my clinical experience, hypertension is absolutely far and away very sensitively connected with the food that we eat. And what this slide shows, it's the most recent data we have on the numbers, the statistics of hypertension in our country. About half of all adults are diagnosed with hypertension. And I just want to point out here that we're doing a really terrible job in treating it. About 3/4 of the people who are diagnosed with hypertension are uncontrolled. So they're not achieving normal blood pressure. So we're only achieving control in about 1/4 of people who are diagnosed with hypertension. This slide, this work comes from, I have to keep up on my work, and so we have to study all the new guidelines every year. This is the American College of Cardiology self-assessment program, and so they came out with the new guidelines on hypertension just last year. And so that's what this comes from. In this slide, I just wanted to point out to you that weight reduction, the diet that we eat, sodium restriction, alcohol, physical activity, all have salutary impact on blood pressure. But what's really important, and we don't really think about this, they also pointed out that just adopting a healthy diet has a much greater benefit to Black Americans in this study than it did to the white participants in this study. So food is essential to good health, and it can really promote good health. So what progress have we been making in cardiology in terms of mitigating this awful death rate, mortality rate from heart disease? This looks at data from 2009 to 2019. It's the most recent study I could find on looking at what progress we've made. And largely through the medical and interventional accomplishments, we've made this steady decline, but it's only about 1 to 2% slope on this line. It's really not that impressive. We could do better. But it also shows that we've seen this benefit for men and women. But when you break it out in terms of different racial groups, we see that there's been little improvement in cardiovascular mortality for Black, Hispanic, and Pacific Islander Americans. So we're not doing great across the board. We could be doing a lot better, and have. And what I tell my students is you want to start off by focusing on people who have the highest risk, and then mitigate problems there and see if what the changes that you make for those patients will work for patients at lower risk. And so who is that? There we go. So this data was published in 2020 and shows that the highest mortality for Black men occurs for Black men across all categories of hypertension-related cardiovascular disease. And this summarizes all the different forms of heart disease, cardiovascular disease that arises from hypertension. But you can see the total number is this bar here. But Black men are represented in this line here. And you can see that they suffer the highest mortality from all kinds of hypertension-related cardiovascular disease. When you look at just the hypertension-related ischemic heart disease, Black men are still the highest mortality rate. Hypertension-related heart failure, they suffer the most. And hypertension-related cerebrovascular disease or stroke, they suffer the most. And why is that? This paper is a tantalizing reason why, or probably the reason why the prevalence of hypertension is the highest for Black men and women, and yet men lag behind in terms of awareness of hypertension, the treatment of hypertension, and the control that they achieve for hypertension. So that makes sense that we're missing a great opportunity in treating a very high-risk group. So to summarize this section, heart disease remains the #1 cause of death for men and women in America, and it has been for over 100 years. Inadequate healthy food access probably contributes to about 20% of this burden. The current food supply contributes about an additional $1 trillion to our cost in America, and Black men and women suffer disproportionately, probably due to inadequate prevention and mitigation of risk factors like hypertension. So how can we disrupt this pattern? So this is a paper I love to share with people because it's really mind-blowing in my view. This was a paper I call the Barbershop Trial. It was published in 2018 in the New England Journal of Medicine. And essentially what they did was they identified 52 barbershops that participated in the LA area. In all of the barbershops, they taught the leadership how to check blood pressure, they gave contact information on how to connect with providers, they gave lifestyle information. But half of those barbershops also got a Black pharmacist to come and treat the hypertension. And one of the points that I think is just so important is the rate of retention in this study is 95%, which is incredible. When I do research, if I get 70, 80%, I'm really happy about that. 95% is insane. And why is that? Because they're interacting with people in the course of their daily lives. They don't have to go somewhere. They don't have to leave work. They don't have to miss pay. So it just makes perfect sense to engage with people where they live. So their hypothesis was that the reduction in systolic blood pressure after 6 months would be greater among participants in barbershops with the pharmacist-led intervention, and that's exactly what they found, but this is also mind-blowing. So this is the intervention group, and this is the control group, and they started at about the same systolic blood pressure of 153, 154. But at the end of treatment, it was 125 was the blood pressure. So they brought their blood pressure under control within 6 months in the treatment group. They only achieved 145 in the control group, but that's an intervention effect of 22 millimeters of mercury, which is insane. That's just, if I could get this in my clinic on a regular basis, I would be so happy. We'd be preventing tons of heart disease, strokes, kidney disease, you name it. The other thing that's important is that this effect was achieved with about on average 2.5 medications, which is clinically consistent with what I see in practice. This is the part that excites me to no end. They looked that after the study closed at 6 months, they went back 6 months later after the study ended, so they didn't have any interventions, nothing like that. But they found that 12 months at the end of the study, they still had blood pressure was well controlled, which speaks volumes. And to me, what this addresses is the power of community. That's when people are in a place where they trust the environment and they're supported, that they're going to have better outcomes. And it just makes sense. So why aren't we doing this everywhere? And that's the question I have. So how do we bring this sensibility to Cincinnati? How do we get this everywhere? So it took me about 5 years to find the place that I'm currently located in. And I toured a lot of cities, and I learned that food deserts are 100% reality. And that is where I grew up, essentially. It's hard to get to a grocery store, so people don't. And they're busy, and so they eat the food that's convenient, that they can get. Food swamps, which I don't know if you've heard that term, but food swamps are neighborhoods that have nutritionally low but calorically high foods, like fast food restaurants, gas station food, that kind of thing. That may be even more detrimental, and I can give you a toe-curling lecture on ultra-processed food. That's for another day. So urban farming has been one thing that Cincinnati is trying to adopt. But in our urban settings, that's really difficult because there's limited land, there's a lot of restrictions, there's a lot of toxicity in the soil, that kind of thing. So rooftop farming is a potential other concept. And I learned about a group in New York called Brooklyn Grange in around 2015, 2016. They wrote a book called Farm on a Roof, which if you've ever read a book on farming, you'd think it'd be pretty dry, but it's so good. I can't recommend it enough. I've read it now 3 times. It's a fantastic story. But these were young people in their 20s in the early part of the 2000s. And they rented this roof in the middle of Queens, Long Island City in Queens. It's about 2/3 the size of a football field, so it's literally a farm. They have dirt on the ground, rows of produce you can see. They're growing, there's farmers that are farming, and they have all kinds of crops. And you can see, I don't know if you can make out, there's the Empire State Building. So you can see Manhattan in the background, and it's just phenomenal. They had farmers giving us a tour. There were chicken coops, beehives. There's lots of different kinds of crops. And then there were these great bees. This was a nice warm day in September. I don't know if you can see them flying. Yeah, but they're flying around. It was a beautiful day in September. They got me connected. They're very interested in having other neighborhoods do what they're doing. So they got me connected with a group called Green Roofs for Healthy Cities. And they helped me learn about the Rothenberg rooftop garden here in Over the Rhine. No relationship as far as I know. But the Rothenberg rooftop garden is just, I'm on the board there, and I'm just grateful to be one of the board members. But that's a beautiful garden that's maintained by 2 amazing women. And the kids that attend the Rothenberg Academy are all, 97% of the kids are below the poverty line. And so the food that's grown here, a lot of them take home. They do cooking classes for the parents and for the families. But the kids also learn science and math, so it's a really great opportunity. So I learned about the woman who created this. Her name is Rose Seeker, and she owns a company called Green Seed Resources. And she actually has designed the rooftop farm, or garden, that I hope to develop. But this is just a fraction of the work that she's done across the city to improve the environment and the quality of lives for all Cincinnatians. She's done these beautiful gardens at NKU, beautiful gardens at Mercy West, and here's some other beautiful gardens that she's built at Cincinnati Children's. So why are we doing more of this to grow food in Cincinnati? That was my question. So the book Farm on a Roof actually is a business plan, the model for how they created their rooftop farm. So I used their plan to identify an appropriate rooftop. And so I started looking, and it took me a long time to ultimately find this space. Around 2020, when COVID hit, I went part-time from the VA to devote more time to this project. And basically, I was looking for a neighborhood that was a food desert, a cohesive community that welcomed the work that I was going to do, and it was diverse racially and socioeconomically. And I found that in Northside, this beautiful flame-shaped little neighborhood. And as you can see, the closest grocery store is this Kroger that's about 2 miles from the center of town. So it's a long way for a lot of the people there, and it's not really on a good bus route. When you identify what a food desert is, the USDA has a definition for it. It's got to be low income and low vehicle access. So it doesn't quite fit the definition of food desert, but my lived experience in the neighborhood, because I live there now, is that a food desert is a very complex subject that this doesn't really hit the mark. But just to show you, about a quarter of the neighborhood is considered low income, and it's really now more the whole, I would say the whole western third of the town. And about half of it is considered low vehicle access. And so that's where the store is. So it's really hard for a lot of people to get there. So our challenge is to create a new model to feed people that emphasizes the foundational role of communities, like the barbershop trial did. And so I'm doing that in what I call the heart of Northside, because it's literally in the heart of Northside, and here it is. So in 2021, I learned about this church, the Old North Presbyterian Church that was going up for sale. And this was built in 1885, and this addition was added on in 1959. And I would be the second owner of this property. And so I saw this building, and this area in particular fascinated me, because it's 4,000 square foot, no mechanicals, flat roof. Perfect for what I want to do. So I had an engineer come out, Ray Brake and Schaefer Engineering, and my architect, Jason Schneider, have helped me with the next phase. So it's taken me about 2 years to get to this phase where I figured out how much it's going to cost and what I would have to do. But to reinforce the building and to build a rooftop garden would cost $2 million, so I'm working on that. But it's definitely doable, and we have the plan, and that's to put the rooftop garden on there. In addition, because it's a church, they have this really awesome community kitchen that I inherited, and my plan is to upgrade that as well. So groups, for example, like Last Mile Food Rescue, I'm sure some of you are familiar with that. They came to me wanting to upcycle food. They collect expired food from the community, and they wanted to upcycle it there. But I have to have, the kitchen has to be up to code. So to do that would be another $400,000, but I'm working on that too. And I got a whole list of people who are really wanting to work with me, but the kitchen has to be brought up to code. But I'm getting there. So this is an example of how the rooftop farm would look in the future. We'll have solar panels. There's a very large space indoors that will be growing food indoors as well. And I'm looking to find the right group to do the indoor hydroponics with me, so we can have food grown year round as well as seasonal food up on the roof. This is the business model. We can talk about it later. It's complicated, but it's a business. That's the business model. I have a couple of programs that I'm doing now that I wanted to tell you briefly. If I have time, I have a blood pressure awareness program, a healthy food access program, and I'm doing a series of health fairs. First one is February 15th. I've got flyers if any of you are interested. The blood pressure awareness project is one that is modeled after the barbershop trial. Basically, I have the great privilege of hosting a farmer's market in my parking lot once a week. The Northside Farmers Market has been meeting there for 20 years, and they continue to meet there. And so I created a blood pressure station in the market over the summer, and this wonderful woman here, Caitlin Funk, is a second-year medical student, and she helped me collect a lot of data. What we did was we had people come and we gave them key fobs with a number on it so we could follow their blood pressure over time. And we were very successful. People loved the work that we did. I got on the news, as you can tell. This is a news report. This is a poster that Caitlin presented this fall on the work that she's doing. We're now working to write it up in a publication. And basically, I just want to point out here that we had 197 visitors for about a 3-4 month period. The demographics pretty much represents Northside mostly. It's 22% African American clients coming to see us, and it's about 38% in Northside. But this is what's important to me, what I think is important. These are the first blood pressures for all the first-time people that came to the blood pressure station. And for the first visit, about 38% of the people were not controlled. And these were people, I should point out, that pretty much everyone that came to us already knew they had hypertension and either should have been on medications or were on medications. So what we did was we looked at the blood pressure change over the course of the summer, and we saw a small but probably significant, we don't know yet, we're working on it, this is really pilot information, but we saw an improvement of blood pressure over time. We didn't prescribe medication, we just gave lifestyle information, encouraged people to take their medicines, answered questions about medications if they were having adverse effects, that kind of thing. Gave them the tools they needed to go back to their doctor to ask for changes if they needed them, that kind of thing. So we saw a benefit. So I think, to me, that community itself may be a mitigating factor. And even though we had 38% that were uncontrolled, it's still embarrassingly much better than our national numbers. So what we're doing now is we're doing this where we're trying to get into the rec centers. So I want to identify people who have never been to a doctor. And so there's 2 rec centers in the neighborhood, one in Millvale and South Clemensville, and then one in McKee. And so I'm trying to develop a volunteer team of people who can help me create these blood pressure stations at high volume times at the rec centers so we can identify more people in the neighborhood. Because I think we're going to see more shocking numbers, but maybe do more good, I think. So I wanted to talk briefly about food and diet. Very briefly, this is the Mediterranean diet pyramid, and I love this diagram because it points out that the Mediterranean diet sits on a foundation of community. We forget about that. It's not just about the food you eat. It's about being together and being active and being cohesive. And the Mediterranean diet is the only diet that we have data that shows reduced cardiovascular events, period. The DASH diet, which I'll talk about too, does decrease blood pressure, but a study has never been done to show that it reduces cardiovascular events. Will it? Probably, but it's not been done yet. The Mediterranean diet, we have this data, and that's why I talk about it so much. So this study is called the Predimed study. It was over 7,000 people in this study, and they showed that when they had people on diets supplemented with nuts or extra virgin olive oil, but on a Mediterranean diet, they had a significantly reduced number of cardiovascular events, mainly strokes, at the end of 5 years. So it works. What about secondary prevention? That was primary prevention. So those were people who never had a heart attack or stroke. What about people who have had a heart attack or stroke? We got data in the CardioPrev study in 2022. This was published. All people that were enrolled had a heart attack or peripheral vascular disease or had had a stroke. And they looked at 7 years, and they found indeed there was also a benefit in reduced events all across the board. So they also had reduced heart attacks and strokes and reduced peripheral vascular disease at the end of 7 years in that study as well. So it works. So I know that to eat healthfully, there's a lot of obstacles. Even in my own family, we struggle eating healthfully on a regular basis. So what I wanted to know is, what is the obstacles that every neighbor that I have faces to healthy eating, and how can we address those obstacles? So during the blood pressure station, I asked a lot of the participants to do these surveys on what are your obstacles to healthy eating. And just briefly, these are some of the answers that we got, which kind of surprised me, but not really. So mainly the major reason why people don't eat healthfully is the store is too far away. I don't have time to prepare healthy food, or I can't afford healthier food. So those are the major obstacles for the majority of people. The second most important obstacle was I'm too busy, or I don't know how to cook healthy food that tastes good. And then the third most important obstacle was no one encourages me to eat healthfully, or I'm too busy to prepare food. So I can see a trend here that people are busy and they don't have time and they don't know what to do. So this is a little food cloud of the major words that were selected. So what did I do in response to this? What we did was 3 great students from Xavier University Occupational Health, the School of Occupational Therapy, came, and what we did was they went to 4 of the grocery stores that are in walking distance in Northside, and they created 26 healthy recipes that you can make from food you can get in walking distance. And then in the recipes, they tell you which store they got the food in. So really easy. And then we had a little cooking party. My son is a chef, Aiden Maddox, and the challenge was he could only use a knife, a burner, and an air fryer. That was all he could use to make these food, because I wanted people that these people, some of them don't even have kitchens, and all they have might be a burner or an air fryer. So I wanted him to be able to do this with minimal equipment. And so hopefully we're working on refining the recipes and getting some pictures. One of his best friends took photographs from and so we're gonna put this online in a couple weeks, I hope. But we wanna offer it for free to people that live in the neighborhood, so they can go shop and we make it stores that are close by and make healthy meals that taste good. So to summarize, the community can be a valuable tool to promote cardiovascular health. And what my goal is to bring health intervention into daily life, a la the barbershop trial, and to improve healthy food supply and access. Considerable data shows both improved food access and health literacy promotion in community can dramatically reduce risk factors of cardiovascular disease. And so I'm doing this in the heart of Northside by promoting building community. We have the farmers market. This is what it looks like indoors, and this is in the summer. You might recognize this gentleman, the tall guy. He came. We have record fairs twice a year. That one's coming up in March. We have weddings. We have choral events. We have a beautiful organ that the students from Cincinnati Conservatory come and play. We have parties. We have health literacy outreach through the blood pressure station. I've invited hospitals to come and talk about, this is a Pfizer-Christ collaboration on transthyretin cardiomyopathy, where we had people from the community come and learn about not very rare form of cardiomyopathy. We've had cancer risk awareness health fairs, and we're preparing for our very first health fair February 15th, where we'll have health screenings, health literature, even the UC library. The health library reached out to me. They want to have a booth on understanding the health literature, which I think is great. I'm excited about that. We're hoping to begin food production. I'm hoping in a year or two through rooftop farming and also hydroponics indoors. We hope to get the teaching kitchen up and going and using, bringing in groups like Last Mile, for example. And the last piece, which I didn't spend much time talking about, but exercise and fitness. I have a couple of rooms pegged for cardiac rehab, so I want to do rehab out in the community so people can learn how to take care of their bodies right in their neighborhoods. They won't have to go anywhere. And this is what I hope that I can make this chart look like in the next 20 years, that all of the lines will come down much more dramatically. That's my goal. So my ultimate goal is to show a reduction in heart attacks and strokes in my zip code in the next 5 years in response to the Heart of Northside programs. And that's my website, and those are the groups that helped me get the work done. So thank you. Excellent. I got it done in time. I didn't think I was going to do that. Anybody have any questions? Yes.
So I'm Gary Walden with the Cincinnati Type of Print Museum located in Pricedale, very important community.
Yeah.
2 blocks down is Myers grocery
Yes.
store. And when you walk in, there's all this produce and it's free.
Yes.
But when I'm in there, you go there to get lunch. People in the community just walk right past it and go to the bathroom. So I'm wondering, is it possible, because we can print them, is it possible that we can have some of those recipes?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, if you could give me the recipes, I would love, that might be the incentive
Yes.
to actually start.
People don't know what to do, and that was some of the top complaints of why people don't eat healthy. They don't know what to do with it.
I'll give you my card, and we'll send all through, I'll get the information, you'll love Myers.
Yeah, so my goal is to put these online, and when people ask, I'll give them to you for free, so people will get it for free.
Thank you.
Excellent. No problem. You're exactly why we're doing this. I'm going to move this. Yes.
So you were talking about the rooftop garden, and you mentioned having your engineers and so forth, and that's to make sure that the structure can support all of the additional weight from the soil,
Yes.
etc. And then additionally, what about drainage or irrigation? Do you count strictly on rainwater, or are you pumping water up? Or?
Oh, absolutely. So the plan is to have the roof will be ramped. It'll have a gentle slope to it for drainage. And in terms of water, I actually am trying to figure out how we can collect rainwater. Yeah, I have ideas about collecting rainwater and using collected rainwater to water the. But up on the roof, we shouldn't have too much trouble watering it, and also with local rain and that kind of thing. That's the plan. But indoors, we have a room that I'm hoping to turn into a hydroponic suite, and I've put in a utility sink and hose bib and that kind of thing for any group that wants to come and do that with me. Did that answer your question? And the Farm on a Roof book actually goes into a lot of detail. They also wrote a separate manual on how to do rooftop farming, and different challenges and things to think about. But the rooftop itself has to be able to withhold 75 to 100 pounds per square foot. Yes.
My dad was a DAB, so thanks for your work with me.
Oh, my pleasure.
Administration. What's your take on things that are added to our foods and things like, the hormones that go in the cows for milk and the different things that are in the fertilizers and, microplastics, all these kind of things. How worried should we be about all these things?
Well, I don't know specifically about things like hormones, but I think the work from the Rockefeller Institute pointed out the negative impact on our health and environmental health. I didn't even point out the environmental problems that we're suffering with as a result of the hormone, the industrialized farming essentially is really the problem. And so what I'm hoping to do is to show that if we can grow food within a community, I want to find out how much do we need to grow, what do the people in the neighborhood want, how efficient are we in our use of the food. I want to have a plan for every single thing I grow. I want it to be organic so that we don't use pesticides, or at least as little of that as possible. And I want to see the impact on the neighborhood in terms of health. I want to look at carbon footprint. We're not going to have to ship it because it's being grown right there. So I think the impact is going to be far and wide. In terms of food additives and things like that, are you talking about like ultra processing? Because that's another topic altogether. And that is a little, we don't even know the impact of a lot of so a lot of these foods that are being added are to make the food shelf stable, and it decreases the cost of the food. That's why we do it. It improves shelf life and allows us to transport food over long distances. And a lot of these chemicals, we don't even know the long-term impacts on our health. And that's what worries me, is that we don't know what we're doing. So that's the scarier question. And that's what I'm trying to mitigate. Yes?
Such a beautiful proposal, and I wonder if you're going to present it at the Midwest Sustainability Summit in May, and if you're working with Green Umbrella and their local food initiatives.
No and yes. And no, because I just haven't had the time to sign up. I've been really busy. When Dr. Wiltsey said single-handedly, he's not kidding. I'm actually maintaining that building. One of the things that I've learned in the last 2 years is it costs $100,000 just to keep that building running.
Oh.
And that's why the church failed, because they didn't have enough coming in. So I'm trying to figure out how to address that with events. And so far I'm getting close to doing that. But I've been super busy, and when the toilet paper runs out, I bring it. I have to buy it. When the snow falls, I have to call up the snow guy, and I put the salt. So I haven't really had a chance to sign up for the Midwest Summit, and I would love to. Green Umbrella, interestingly, they're doing very similar work, but in a more diverse way, in a more diffuse way across the city. And so we're sort of working in parallel. We're like two kids playing in a playground next to each other. We're doing the same work, but we're not really, I'm hoping to give them information that will support their efforts, and they're doing similar work in other neighborhoods, but we're not really working together on this particular project. Yes?
So what can people like us do to help?
Oh, bless her. So many things. One of the challenges I've had is people ask to volunteer, which means I have to come up with a volunteer list. And so there's a lovely woman who's been doing a lot of work structurally in the building, helping me out a lot. And she has volunteered to be the volunteer head. So that's going to help me a lot. So basically, maybe helping me create a volunteer group would be really helpful. One of the things that she's been doing is following me around and figuring out what I do to figure out where she can help me. One of my problems, and I think a lot of women are going to go like this, we don't know how to ask for help. We see a problem, we just go do it. And that's me. I don't know to say, oh, I'm going to need help with it. Unless it's on a ladder and high up, I don't ask for help. Or unless I can't twist it off myself. So my problem is I need to find people to help me alleviate that burden. And also fundraising is actually something that I don't know anything about fundraising. So if there are any fundraisers out there that would love to help, that would be wonderful. Because I think it really won't, people say $2 million, that's a lot of money. But honestly, there have been capital campaigns that are much bigger than that for other nonprofits. And I think it's very doable. And I think we can make this happen. And so I'm really excited to see. Yes. Oh, sure.
Making sure people
We'll go to phase 2. Will you stay late after to answer questions? She'll stay after to answer questions. But before you leave, thank Dr. Rothenberg for a great presentation. As a tradition, we honor you through a coin, the Cincinnati skyline on the one side that you can kind of see throughout the view here. And then on the right, other side is our four-way test that was stated earlier, our mission of Rotary Club International. And I want to honor you for your speech today to present this to you. And we also want to thank you. And the theme this year for Rotary International is Magic of Rotary. And you bring magic to Cincinnati and Northside. Thank you again. We have 2 meetings, hands-on service and hands-on service Jefferson Award after this meeting. Feel free to stop by and ask questions, and we'll get a quick picture. All right, meeting adjourned. And remember, Rob Hartman next Thursday.